guys, it's me again. Thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome back to my channel where I analyze and review welcome back to my channel where I analyze and review scary kids stories through the lens of horror studies. Today I'm actually not doing a review or an analysis, I'm actually going to be doing a horror movie tag. Technically it looks like there are like 2 horror movie Q&As floating around on YouTube, so I just sort of combined them and picked the questions that I liked best from each one. It's super rainy and super wintry outside right now. Just figured what a nice day to stay inside and drink tea and talk about horror movies all the livelong day. That is my dream. Okay, so let's just get right into it. Okay, so the first question is, what is the first horror movie that you remember watching? Mine is actually Poltergeist. When I was about 13 or 14, I was never allowed to watch horror movies. So one night when my mom went to sleep, I snuck out into the living room and watched it on cable television. I kind of learned my lesson. It scared the shit out of me. I was so freaked out for days afterwards and I could tell nobody. I was always interested in horror movies as a kid though. When my family would go to Blockbuster, I would read the backs of the DVDs and just generally kind of be interested in what the movie was about and that kind of thing. So there was definitely a horror fan in there somewhere. Alright, the second question is, what is your favorite horror movie? That seems so unanswerable. That's just such a hard question. I've been thinking about it though, and even though it seems to change day to day, sort of what mood I'm in, there's 2 movies that I always keep coming back to. The first one is The Wicker Man, which I talked about on this channel in my previous video, and the second one is The Wailing. I love The Wailing so much. I cannot get this movie out of my head. I've seen it 4 or 5 times. I'm a repeat viewer. I watch movies over and over and over again if I like them. And this one, it just stuck with me. I just think it's so interesting. It has my favorite all-time, hands down, my favorite exorcism scene in any movie that I have ever seen. And I don't know if it can really even be called an exorcism, but it's this sort of spiritual warfare thing that they do. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And I love the folk religion, the rural atmosphere. Oh my gosh, it's so good. I love The Wailing. I love The Wailing. Alright, the next question is, what genre scares you the most? For me, it's pretty easy to answer this question. It's serial killer stuff. It's a little bit too real for me. I have a pretty hard time with serial killer stories and movies based on real serial killers and that kind of thing. It just, freaks me out. And I also have a thing about body horror. I like movies with body horror, but they sort of get to me, in a way that a lot of other movies don't. So I would say serial killer stuff and body horror. What is the last movie that actually scared you? This is another one that's really easy to answer for me. It was actually Gerald's Game. I really liked the movie itself. I love Mike Flanagan. Everything Mike Flanagan does I'm really interested in. And of course Stephen King I love too. But this movie just freaked me out. It kept me up at night. I actually was sitting up in bed in the middle of the night, looking at the corner of my room waiting for that guy to step out of the shadows. It was fucked. Next question is, what's a concept that you'd like to see in horror? This is an exciting one for me. I really want to see more children's literature and children's stories in horror movies. And not necessarily more kids in horror movies, because there's already a lot of kids in horror movies, but I want to see more movies that incorporate things like picture books and pop-up books and things like that. I think that there's a lot of potential there, and The Babadook really did some interesting things with children's literature that I would like to see be done a little bit more. Some more exploration there would be super cool. Alright, next question is, who is your ultimate Scream Queen? I can't say that I'm super into the whole Scream Queen thing, so I don't really have an answer for this question, but if we're talking about women in horror, and it is Women in Horror Month by the way, I would have to say I think Alice Lowe is super fucking badass. She is amazing. She wrote, directed, and starred in Prevenge while being super pregnant. Not to mention that I love that movie. I think she's a total horror badass. Can't wait for anything else she does. I'm so excited to see more from her in the future. Okay, next question is favorite horror director. Can't say that I have a favorite horror director. Obviously some directors have done more horror movies than others, but I can say that I'm always super interested to see what Chan-wook Park and Takashi Miike have coming down the pipe. Always interested to see what movies they're making. I love pretty much everything that James Wan and Leigh Whannell do together, jump scares aside. I really liked Insidious, really liked Saw. Really liked Dead Silence. I absolutely loved The Invitation, so Karen Kusama definitely has to be up there. I'm super interested to see what she's going to be doing in the future. And same thing with Jennifer Kent. I obviously love The Babadook, so I really hope she does more horror. I'm also a really big Guillermo del Toro fan. I like pretty much everything that he does because he does have that sort of children's literature element. I heard somewhere that he actually bought the rights to Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and I was like, oh my god, like I'm so excited. I really hope that ends up happening and that he uses elements of Stephen Gamel's original illustrations. Like, I would die. Okay, next question is favorite gore film. I'm not super into like torture-y movies. I mean, I'll watch them and I won't hate them, but it doesn't really do a whole lot for me. But I have to say that Audition from Takashi Miike, I love this movie. Definitely my favorite gore movie. The final scene is almost unwatchable. Like, I've seen this movie 3 or 4 times. Like I say, I'm a repeat viewer, and I have to look away at some point every time. I actually took a class in university that we watched this movie in, and I had never seen the movie before. I didn't really know what I was getting into, and there was a friend of mine that was sitting beside me. I'll never forget, like, I was so uncomfortable during the torture scene. Like, it's so hard to watch. And she was just sitting beside me, like, eating some snacks, like, totally relaxed watching this film. And I was blown away. Like, she's a tank. Favorite horror theme? I tend towards supernatural. I really like supernatural movies, but I also like psychological horror movies and really cerebral horror movies. And I'm really into like the midnight movie scene and the cult film scene as well. All right, next one is favorite shock film. And this has been interpreted a little bit differently from like different videos that I've watched, but I'm gonna interpret this question to deal with like movies that are meant to shock you. Like I was saying, like midnight movies and that kind of thing. I have seen a lot of midnight movies, and there's a lot of them that I really didn't enjoy. You know, it's not an enjoyable experience watching shock film. So my favorite shock movie is without a doubt Kuso. It came out last year and it was directed by Steven Ellison, aka Flying Lotus, and with David Firth, who is the man behind Salad Fingers. I can't recommend that anybody watch this film. Like, I don't want to be that person. I can't even really explain how gross it is. Is it the most disgusting movie ever made? Like a lot of critics said. I don't necessarily agree with that. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. Shout out to Flying Lotus, like, well done. Next one is favorite iconic horror character. Creature from the Black Lagoon, no contest. Most underrated horror film. This was a tough one for me, but I'm going to have to say Ginger Snaps. I don't think it's really underrated like by the critics. Like, critics tend to really like this film, but there are a lot of people that haven't seen this movie. I think it's so well made, it's well written, it's funny, it's fun, it's scary, it's everything, and I think more people need to see it, so that would be my favorite underrated horror film. Funniest horror film? Definitely Housebound. I thought this movie was so funny and so ridiculous. I loved it. I really, really liked the tone of the movie. I liked all the visuals. Her mom is fucking hilarious. I just love this movie, so more people need to see Housebound too. Like, go see Housebound, it's great. The final question is the worst horror film, and if you know me at all, you know that I absolutely love bad movies. I cannot get enough of just watching shitty movies and laughing at them. Like, this has been a defining thing in my life for years and years and years, ever since my best friend and I like first ever watched Troll 2. But I'm not going to talk about so bad they're good movies for this question. I just like the worst horror film. There are a lot of horror films that are worse than this one, but I have to say the one that sticks out in my mind right now because I saw it so recently was The Bye Bye Man. It was so insultingly bad, like to the point where I just felt I was being condescended to the whole time, and I just hated it. Can I like talk about movies that are so bad they're good? Like, can I add a question? I think people do that, right? Where they like add a question on the end. Okay, so I'll add the question on like, what's your favorite, best, worst horror film? It has to be a cross between The Wicker Man, which I talked about in my last video. Oh my god, that movie is absolutely hilarious. The rewatch value of that movie blows me away. Like, I could watch that movie over and over and over again and still find something new and ridiculous to laugh at every time. So shout out to Nicolas Cage. Yeah. And then it has to be a cross between The Wicker Man and The Happening. Fucking love The Happening. It is so bad. It's nonsensical. Mark Wahlberg looks like he's in pain the whole time. There's that man who is like obsessed with hot dogs. My favorite part of that movie is when that lady like sidles up to Mark Wahlberg in that bar. Is it Mark Wahlberg or John Leguizamo? I can't remember. But she like comes up with like an iPhone and is like, watch this crazy shit. And it's this guy getting his arms torn off by a lion. Who shows people that video in a bar? Are you crazy? Why? Oh, it's brilliant. Oh, so brilliant. Alright guys, so that is all the questions. I really enjoyed making this video. This probably won't be like the last Q&A that I do. Like, I will take any opportunity to talk about movies that I like with other people. So guys, if you like this video, please feel free to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below and let me know what your favorite horror film is, or let me know your opinion on any of the movies that I talked about in this video. Alright guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.